Hello and welcome to Maker Chat. In this video, we'll explore the key elements of successful closed map design in Brawl Stars. From balanced gameplay to strategic positioning, I'll show you how to create maps that will provide fun, close quarters combat for its players. Get ready to master closed map design and take your gameplay to the next level. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty of closed map design, let's define what a closed map even is. In Brawl Stars, closed maps are those that feature tight spaces, narrow corridors, and limited lines of sight. These maps require a different approach to design than open maps, as they demand a greater focus on strategic positioning and careful use of cover. Because of this, tanks and other short-range brawlers usually excel on these maps due to having plenty of cover to position behind. Throwers will also perform well on these maps with their ability to lock down sections and control choke points from behind walls, but more often than not, throwers can be played on any type of map, so that's not a surprise. Walls are essential when it comes to creating closed maps, if you couldn't tell already. Contrary to popular belief, grass isn't that important when creating closed maps. Of course, grass is still really good on them, but if the map lacks walls, tanks and other short-range brawlers will still struggle. That's why you don't often see tanks on maps like Kaboom Canyon or Double Swoosh. They lack the walls tanks need to push up and hold position in key areas of the map. I'll go more into grassy maps and the design behind them in a future video, but for now, just know that lots of grass does not equal a closed map. Now, to give you an example of a closed map, let's analyze Canal Grande. This map is probably one of the best closed maps in Bounty, but then again, that's not saying much because there's only like 4 or 5 of them. Anyway, the key area of focus on any map is mid, but for closed maps in particular, how you design it is super important. On Canal Grande, the walls are placed in such a way it makes it hard for players to have long distance shootouts vertically across from each other. This forces players to come closer to mid if they want to engage with each other and fight for mid control. The grass in this area also promotes this by providing an area to hide in that can possibly help players catch an enemy off guard. With all that said though, sharpshooters can still be played on this map. Most of the horizontal lines of sight are mostly unblocked, which allows for them to snipe anyone on the other side of the map. The choke points leading to mid are also fairly difficult to push through, as they have really open lines of sight from mid itself, which leads to sharpshooters being able to keep players out of mid from mid very easily. Despite this, tanks can still dominate on this map due to the limited verticality of the map's shooting angles and the abundance of cover they can hide behind in mid. The balance this map possesses gives it a rather large pool of brawlers that are viable on it, which allows for a lot more strategic depth when building comps. Another great example of a closed map is Beach Ball. This map also has a tight mid, but offers a bit more room for moving around than Canal Grande does. The shooting angles on this map are also a little less prevalent horizontally because the walls on this map are more spaced out and staggered. This allows players to inch slowly up the map safely without having to worry about getting shot at from a distance. Of course, there are a few shooting angles that can make that difficult if the other team is positioned well, which just makes the fight for mid control much more engaging. Most of the grass on this map's mid is used for trying to heal or trying to sneak up and grab the ball, but the grass on the sides can be used to kind of push up the map in a sneaky way with the help of the walls right next to them. One last example of a closed map that I have for you is Bell's Rock. Although this map is mostly only played with sharpshooters and throwers, it still meets the criteria for a closed map. Like I said before, closed maps feature tight corridors, narrow spaces, and limited lines of sight, and this map has all three. Bell's Rock is your standard 3-lane map, but its mid is incredibly tight and difficult to push up. Since there is no horizontal cover that can be used for pushing up the map, sharpshooters are really good at keeping players back and preventing them from playing aggressively. This is also because the shooting angles for the map directly interfere with the only pathways that you have to even push up the map. This also allows throwers and control brawlers to thrive on this map, as they can completely clog a lane and in some cases force the other team to even retreat. All of this, plus the inability to position themselves well, leads to short range brawlers being completely absent from this map's strategies for the most part. Of course, those are not all of the closed maps that have been featured in the game's trophy rotation, but if I listed and explained all of them, we would be here forever. If you do want to see more in-depth videos on individual maps, you should subscribe, as I also make those too. And hey, while you're at it, if you're enjoying the video so far and have learned anything from it, make sure to leave a like, as it really helps other people to see the video too. So with all that out of the way, now that we know exactly what a closed map is and how to identify one, let's create one. I decided I wanted to make a closed bounty map, as like I said before, not very many bounty maps are closed. Most of them are open. So I'm going to focus on creating a bounty map that is closed. I kind of already have an idea for what I want the map to look like, so I'm just going to make it real quick. As always, I recommend starting in mid, as no matter what map you're making, starting in mid will be really helpful for putting your idea out onto the map and seeing how it'll work. Okay, so this is what I have so far. I kind of wanted to make something that still allows for sharpshooters to be pretty good on it, but if you wanted to, you could play an assassin like Buzz or Fang, or whichever one you prefer. Right now the walls are kind of staggered a bit, but not too much. And the shooting angles look a little bit something like this, which I think for now that is pretty good. And of course the shooting angles from behind this wall, you can shoot up there and like something like that. And so yeah, I think that's pretty good for what I want this map to be right now. Definitely not an open map, and it's definitely closed right now, but I think what will be important in determining how closed the map will be whether or not I add more walls to the side over here, and I think I'll do that. The key ingredient to making closed maps is shooting angles, and the walls, of course. You want to place walls in such a way that they limit the length of or the amount of shooting angles in an area. This should contrast open maps where instead of providing lots of room to move around and dodge, you provide cover and limit movement. This not only kills shooting angles, but should also force players to position around the map to find good ones. Think of it like telling players where they are and aren't allowed to shoot. You may provide a few lines of sight, but they don't have to be directly where players will want or need to walk. Another thing that I'm going to say is about choke points. Choke points are pretty important when it comes to closed maps, but having too many or making them too hard to push through can make moving around the map annoying or make it extremely easy to control certain areas on the map. If you want a closed map with more passive or long distance gameplay, having lots of choke points that are required to push through will accomplish this, but if you don't, then I would suggest trying to mitigate the number of choke points on your map, or try to make choke points not too hard to push through, if that makes sense. So right now, the major choke points on my map right now are this one right here to get the blue star. That is a wonky box, but okay. The ones on the sides, again, wonky. And then these choke points right here that you have to use to push out in the mid. And then also the choke points over here on the sides, to if you're going to be side laner. So right now, my map actually has 4 lanes, which I probably should have planned for that, to be honest. But it's okay, because these barrels right here in the middle of the map kind of allow for some safe cover to people pushing out right here so that they can push out to the barrels right there. The choke points on the sides shouldn't be too hard to push through because again, you have cover like right here that you can push up to, except for on the left side. I guess you don't really have that cover, but you can also use this right here to push through this choke point and possibly go like right here and come right here and kind of sit right there for a power position, I guess. And so right now, I feel like this layout is pretty decent. It gets everything done that I want to accomplish on the map. And so right now, I'm just going to try to add some grass and see how that goes. I guess this grass will have to do. I tried not to add too much grass because I feel like there's already enough walls on the map, so the grass isn't really that necessary. But I felt that I added grass in some pretty key areas. This grass right here in mid, this is so that players pushing up the left side have grass to go to because they don't have any cover over here. It's just, well, they do, but it's way easier to hit them from like this angle over here than it would be to hit someone from this angle over here. I also added this grass right here as a kind of means to allow people to heal, or they can swap lanes, I guess. That could also work. It wouldn't be that effective because it only moves them into the 2 middle lanes, but it works for what I need it to do. And then as far as grass goes on this map, that's pretty much all the grass I feel like adding right now. I still gotta add the backside, which I might leave open because closed backsides are not very fun to navigate. To give a little more information on using grass on closed maps, because I kind of skimmed over it, grass can be a great tool for pushing up the map or a spot for healing, especially when you pair it with walls. But it is important to keep most of the grass on the map easy to check, and I feel like I did that on my map. It's not really that hard to check, and if it is the grass on my map that is hard to check, you can kind of check it from the sides, so that's not really a problem for me. Closed maps already have a ton of cover, so making the grass super hard to check can make the map feel frustrating to play on. A good rule of thumb that I like to stick to when creating closed maps is if the grass can't be checked with 1 or 2 attacks, it's too hard to check. And as far as the backside goes, I'll probably just add a few cacti like this. Is that even? That's even. As far as closed maps go, this isn't anything too crazy. Brawlers like Buzz or Fang, Sam, maybe even Leon, they should still work fairly good on this map due to all the cover that I added in mid specifically, because it kind of kills shooting angles that are important and also allows them to push up into mid where they can gain control that way. As far as this map goes, I think I'm done with this map for now. It's nothing too crazy, but it shows off everything I needed to. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more mapmaker content just like this. I'm LuPG13, and I'll see you next time.